Hello YouTube, this is Darkon633, and today I'm bringing a review of the Transformers Armada Giga-Con Galvatron. Now, this finishes up my last Blast from the Past review for the month of August, and we'll be moving on to Energon in the following month in September. Now, Galvatron is obviously a repaint of the Giga-Con Megatron mold, and it's pretty much the same thing almost throughout the entire body with obviously just a different paint job. So, we have gotten Megatrons and Galvatrons of the past with retools, but this time it's just a full-on repaint. Even the Minicon, which I'll show in a minute, is a repaint of Leader 1, but now he's named Clench, so that's the new name that they associated with this version of the character. Now, I was going to be able to review Megatron, but over the years, he did break, so he has a broken earpiece and so on, so in order for me to review this properly, I have to use the Galvatron mold, which I got years after. Well, not years after, but during the time Armada, so it was afterwards. But anyways, we'll now go on to Galvatron himself. Articulation-wise, he wasn't really the best in any means, because he was much more limited than a lot of the other Transformers at the time. His head can kind of turn, but due to the large ears getting in the way, it can be a bit of a problem. And the ears do maintain a gimmick, where they kind of act like pinchers, and I think it's an interesting idea, but it is also kind of strange looking at some points as well. Unfortunately, the back isn't as secure anymore because, just like with the Megatron mold, for some reason this mold had a tendency to have problems with the back piece kind of breaking in the internal mechanism. So because of that, it doesn't stay in that well altogether. I also lost the missile over time, so it was just like an orange missile. I'm pretty sure it was just the same color missile. I don't remember, it's been a while, but I know the Megatron mold had an orange missile, so I can't show it on a camera regardless. Other forms of articulation, he does have outward shoulder movement, he can bend at the elbow, and he does have wrist swivel, so that's a plus. He has waist articulation, but only on the hips though, because this middle piece is actually for the transformation and one other gimmick, which we'll get to afterwards. His legs, unfortunately, cannot move forwards and back, but it can kind of do the old G1 style with the legs moving outward. And it can bend at the knee sideways, so it doesn't have regular knee movement. And his feet can pivot just a bit due to transformation, but there isn't a whole lot you're going to get with this figure. His Minicon, Clench, as I mentioned earlier, is a full-on repaint of Leader 1. To transform him is very simple. All you gotta do, if the camera would focus, sorry about that, is transform like this by pulling the legs down, push these up, and that's it. So it's very simple. Now Clench here is pretty cool looking, and since he is a straight-on repaint of Leader 1, there isn't a whole lot different you're gonna get if you already have the Armada Megatron mold. His legs kind of bend backwards and so on due to transformation. His arms can turn, but that's it. No other forms of articulation. To transform him back, all you gotta do is pull down the legs, like this for the missiles, and then just turn this entire body around and then pull these up, and there you have him back in his vehicle mode. So his vehicle mode is very simple, and the transformation is too. In this mode, he does feature several gimmicks for Galvatron here. These panels open up, and that's where the transformation is, but there isn't much there. However, down here though, there's a few gimmicks that are actually built onto his legs. First, you can open this up, and it becomes kind of like a claw, which I personally don't really see any real purpose what this can do. Maybe capture a Minicon or something and all that, but other than that, there isn't a whole lot you can do there. On this side, he does have a little mechanism in there too, but that's mainly towards the vehicle mode, which we'll get to in a minute. And on the back, as you can see here, he's got a whole lot of different gimmicks for his vehicle mode, where this mode, it can use it. Most of the gimmicks are not available in this mode, and mostly it's actually in the vehicle. So, as you can see, he does have a little bit of gimmicks here and there, and he does have a spring-loaded cannon. And then back here, he does have a few things, and I am missing one of the missiles back here too, which we'll get to in a minute where all these things do. So first, we're just going to go into vehicle mode so we can activate the other features. First, we're going to pull up this lever here, and then we're going to open up the shoulders, put away the hand. Oh wait, I forgot. There's actually one more gimmick that this mode has, actually. And that is, he has a little dagger in his hand. How to activate it, you just put in any Minicon, it doesn't matter what version. Just plug in clench here. It'll be a bit tricky for it to connect. And when you pull it down, a little dagger will appear from inside, which is an interesting gimmick, but there isn't a whole lot of purpose for that since the dagger is quite small. Pretty sure he can't really do much damage with that. And as you can see, his waist has gotten quite loose over the years too. First, we're going to open these up as I mentioned earlier. Put away the arms. Like so. This one can be a bit tricky due to the articulation he slightly has, but it's all spring-loaded as you can see. I'm going to turn this around actually, yep, that's what was causing it. Come on. As I mentioned earlier, this one can be a bit tricky to put in. There, now I got in. So now, what we're going to do next is turn the legs around, and you're going to pull these like this. Push these away. Push these down. And then you're going to turn the tank turn around, and there you have Galvatron in his vehicle mode. And here we have Giga-Con Galvatron in his vehicle mode. Now I really like the design of the Armada Megatron mold altogether, and it looks pretty cool in these colors as well. He does have a few electronic gimmicks, but I'm not sure over the years they're going to work anymore, but let's see. One of the gimmicks he activates is when you plug in a Minicon here, and it seems like a lot of the Minicon ports had a problem with me. It just doesn't like to connect very well. Let's see. Okay. And they think this one activated a light and sound gimmick, so let's see. Here we go. It still works. Actually, no. This one activates the missile gimmick. What happens is that when the button is pressed, a light and sound gimmick would activate this button right here, and then the missiles will fire because it activates the spring mechanism here. I'm just going to take this out since it doesn't work after all these years. And we're going to pull the mechanism back. The mechanism is now back into place. And now here, I think this one didn't activate anything, and all it did is just a way to store him. So there's one thing that it can activate there. And as I mentioned earlier, in this mode, a few more gimmicks activate. Where, if you see on the side here, if you put the Minicon here, and pull it back, it will activate another gimmick. Let's see. So yeah, I think this one was just kind of some kind of flight pad thing. So as you can see here, that's all that it does, really. It doesn't really activate any other gimmicks on this side. So, as you can see there, it doesn't really do much there. On this side, though, when you pull this piece, that is how you activate the mechanism for this little bay area here. And I think it's supposed to be some kind of capture area. But as you can see, the area is just extremely small, and there isn't anything really that good of a gimmick there. I think it's kind of a lame gimmick all together since it really doesn't do that much. We're going to pull this back now, place, and then on this side we're going to show the capture claw again. It works a little better in vehicle mode. I could see where this can be used to capture Minicons as they move by like this. There you go. It kind of just captures it on the side there. But some of the gimmicks didn't really turn out too well, I think, outside of a few others. Now, this is a gimmick I actually do enjoy. Basically, this one is not activated by a Minicon. We're just going to pull this in a Minicon like here, so there's more ports all throughout the body that just doesn't really serve any purpose besides storing Minicons throughout the body. But this gimmick, what happens is that when you press this button here, this will open up and then it becomes some kind of like area where it shoots missiles or whatever. So you can see it's pretty detailed inside, but there isn't a whole lot there. There's no paint or anything extra activating it, so that's pretty much it for the vehicle mode, mostly. So As you can see, while the vehicle mode looks nice and the gimmicks are all over, a lot of these weren't really thought of very well, and it just looks kind of goofy really than anything else. When I go back into robot mode, first you're going to pull up the feet, pull these forward, push up the heel pieces, turn this around, so now you got them facing this way, open up the arms, pull them out, same thing with the other side, pull down the faceplate, turn the cannon around, and what you're supposed to technically do, as you can see, this is the mechanism which would turn the turret, which I got to mention earlier, but as you can see, it's broken. It doesn't turn like it's supposed to, like it did back in the day. And once this would be locked into place, as you can see right here, it would keep it stuck in one position. But unfortunately, because of the mechanism inside is broken, it will not lock into place, and as you can see, it just moves around still. So there we have Galvatron back in his robot mode, which I'll be back to show a better angle of Galvatron now. Anyways, we're back. He does have one other feature, but you're going to need either the Energon Tidal Wave or the original Armada Tidal Wave to do this last gimmick. Now, I know he's not out in camera, but there's actually a good reason why it's not really that important. First, what we're going to do is, actually, we're going to turn the turret facing forward. So while this looks really strange at first, there's actually a good reason why we are going to do this, which can be a bit tricky by the way that the body is. Kind of need to play around with it, as you can see there. And this will be facing forward. As you can see, that's how it looks like for Galvatron itself. For Tidal Wave, we're going to break it up into its components once again. So we're just going to quickly detach all the parts, like so. And now, for this piece, we're going to close the face as normal, turn this around, and then turn into this vehicle mode. But, as you can see back here, there's these little latch pieces which I mentioned on the Tidal Wave review. And either side, you can attach this to the arms here. So, let's try and get this into place. And then this latches together. There we have one of his armor components. For the other side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to transform this back into the single vehicle mode. Like this, as you can see. And then we're going to take this piece here, I'm going to push down, and this is going to latch on the other arm. Like so. And then we're going to take this piece here. We're going to push up these pieces here, turn this around, and make sure that these actually face this direction, as you can see here. And from the back, we're going to pull up the body so that you see an empty gap now there after we pulled up the body. And then, to finish off the transformation, we're going to attach this piece to the back. And there we have the full formation of Tidal Wave with Galvatron. Now, I think this mode looks ridiculous, and it's really awesome since he's completely armored up and ready to fight the Autobots in order to get the Minicons. Now, while this mode really doesn't help with the movement, and for obvious reasons, since a lot of the components really just get in the way, in terms of playability, I think it looks really awesome. And with this, you can actually turn the turn around and just go ahead and fire and so on. So he's pretty armed up here. It reminds me a lot of a style like Heavy Arms Custom and all that, where a lot of the armory was all over the body and everything. And pretty much you don't want to mess with Galvatron when he's fused with Tidal Wave like this. And I just think it really helps with the play value with Galvatron if you happen to have Tidal Wave as well. The Energon mold also works the same way since it's just a repaint of this mold. And I think personally the Tidal Wave works a lot better because the Energon colors really just don't match the Armada color style. So, as you can see, this does have a lot of play value going for it, but articulation-wise, Galvatron does suffer quite a bit. Since a lot of the areas could have been definitely articulated better, especially in the legs. And I think the legs is by far one of the worst parts of this figure. But it still works pretty well, and I really did enjoy this version of Megatron / Galvatron from Transformers Armada, or known as Micron Legend in Japan. Overall, I still think Galvatron is still kind of lives up to today's standards, and I still really enjoy the design of this figure. Now, I would actually be happy to maybe see this version of the color for the new Generations Leader Class version of Armada Megatron, and I think it worked pretty good since the mold doesn't look too bad. It's nothing that I really would buy, but I still think it would look cool in these colors if they decided to make that in the future release or some other thing down the road. Now, overall, I still think this Galvatron is definitely worth it to this date, especially if you get yours in a better working condition, unlike mine after all the wear and tear over the years, since this is actually my original copy when I was a kid. So, it does have a lot of loose joints and various other things over time. And yeah, the wing pieces are still missing, and they looked a lot better when the wing pieces were actually still attached to Tidal Wave's legs. Now, I definitely recommend getting this figure, and tune in next month as we go to Transformers Energon. Anyways, please comment and subscribe, and check out Hirotaku and the Gideon blog for the latest in hero news, Transformers, Gundam, anime, and various other things we have there. Also comic books and other hero-related productions. Also, check me under Twitter under Darkon633. Also, please check down the channels down below, including the WRW podcast. Anyways, I'll be seeing you next week, you two. Bye.